Hi my egos, my name is Cedie and thank you so much for watching this video. And for today, we're going to have another lecture discussion on some theories of personality, giving you only the basic tenets, the core concept, and the important information you need to learn. I hope if this is your first time to visit my channel, please do subscribe at my channel and hit that bell button for you to get notified whenever I post a new video. Hi everyone, so let's have another lecture discussion on the theories of personality, and for today we're going to discuss the theory of George Kelly. Okay, this is the personal construct theory. Okay, so what is a personal construct theory? This is where Kelly suggested that people perceive and organize their world of experiences the same way scientists do, by formulating hypotheses about the environment and testing them against the reality of daily life. Alright, so we observe the events of our life, the facts, the data of our experiences, and interpret them in our way, okay, in our own way. This personal interpreting, explaining, or constructing, or construing of experience is our unique view of events. Alright, so he also said that we look at the world through transparent patterns that fit over the realities which the world is composed. So the theory of this, all right, so personal construct theory is actually a meta theory, which means that it came from several or varied forms of theories, all right, and so we have this theory. Galing siya sa iba't ibang mga theories. Here are just some of the information about the life of George Kelly. So he was born in Kansas, right? He has a master's degree in educational sociology. All right, so he worked as an aviation psychologist in World War II, okay, and other information. All right, so these are the basic tenets of the personal construct theory. Basically, each person creates a set of cognitive constructs about the environment, which means tayo po yung gumagawa ng sarili nating interpretasyon sa environment. Okay, how we interpret our environment is more important than what is really happening. Mas importante yung sariling interpretation natin. We interpret and organize the events and social relationships of our lives in a system or pattern. Alright, so later on we will discuss the different corollaries. Alright, 11 corollaries. We make predictions about ourselves and about other people, and we use these predictions to formulate responses and guide our actions. Kaya daw, according towards this theory, person is considered as a scientist, all right, because we have the way of looking to explain, to interpret, okay, of what is happening in our environment. All right, he also concluded that people function in the way scientists do. Okay, person as scientist. Right. He proposed that the way to understand someone's personality is to examine his or her personal constructs. All right. According to Kelly, our interpretation of events is more important than the events themselves. So let's define what is a construct. A construct is a person's unique way of looking at life, this is an intellectual hypothesis devised to explain or interpret events. We behave in accordance with the expectation that our constructs will predict and explain the reality of our world. So like scientists, we constantly test this hypothesis. We base our behavior on our constructs and we evaluate the effects. Okay? All right, so next, here is an example of, all right, so this is an example of a construct being formed in a student. So another term that we will encounter in this theory is construct alternativism. Constructive alternativism is the idea that we are free to revise or to replace our constructs with alternatives as needed. Alright, so this is the one basic postulate, okay? And it supports the 11 corollaries. Alright, this is the basic postulate that assumes that people are constantly active, and they're actively, all right, and they are active in their way of anticipating events. So, with this one, we can discuss the 11 corollaries, because this term again, this refers to the different constructs, all right? So we have the way of how we interpret, okay, the events that happened in our lives, so that we have the 11 corollaries being formed. So number 1 is construction corollaries. All right, this is similarities, focusing on similarities among the events. So because repeated events are similar, we can predict or anticipate how we will experience such an event in the future. Okay, so this focus more on the similarities of certain events. Number 2 naman is individuality corollary. So this is more of the differences among people. People perceive events in different ways. Focus again sa pagkakaiba or differences ng mga tao. Number 3 is organization corollary. All right. So in this corollary, okay, we arrange our constructs in patterns according to our view of their similarities and differences. So again, relationships among the constructs is important here. Alright, we view the similarities and the differences. Number 4 is dichotomy corollary. So constructs are bipolar. For example, if we have an opinion about honesty, that idea must also include the concept of dishonesty. Okay? So pantay-pantay lang daw, or it has opposite poles. Number 5 is the choice corollary. Choice between dichotomies. We choose the alternative for each construct that works best for us. The one that allows us to predict the outcome of anticipated events. Okay? Number 6 is we have the range corollary. So this is particularly more of the application to many situations or people, or they may be limited to a single person or situation. Okay, so it means a particular, meron lang siyang range, alright? Kung hanggang saan lang siya. Applicable lang siya into what particular experience. Number 7 is the experience corollary. Experience and learning. Focuses siya sa constructs against life's experiences to make sure that they remain useful. Again, experience corollary, it focus on the experiences, okay, and the learning. Number 8 is we have modulation corollary. So this refers to, all right, so we modify our constructs as a function of new experiences. Okay? So adaptation to experiences, ganon. Number 9 is we may sometimes have we may sometimes have contradictory or inconsistent subordinate constructs within our overall construct system. So this is the fragmentation corollary. Okay, so this refers to incompatible constructs. So there is something na mali or hindi siya consistent. So there is a contradictory or inconsistency to the subordinating constructs within our constructive system. Okay, so yun. So commonality naman, commonality corollary, this refers to, alright, so this refers to the similarity among people, okay? Although our individual constructs are unique to us, people in compatible groups or cultures may hold similar constructs. So again, pagkakaparehas ng mga tao. Okay, this is the opposite of fragmentation corollary. 11 is, this is sociality corollary. Okay, we try to understand how other people think and predict what they will do, and we modify our behavior accordingly. Okay, so focus siya sa social events. Okay? So these are the 11 corollaries, okay, in the theory of Kelly. Alright, let's focus more deeply sa mga corollaries na yon. Construction corollaries, similarities among repeated events. Kelly believed no life event or experience could be reproduced exactly as it occurred the first time. An event can be repeated, but it will not be experienced in precisely the same way. An example here is if you watch a movie today that you first saw last month, your experience of it will be different the second time. Okay, your mood may not be the same, and during the elapsed month, you were exposed to events that affected your attitudes and emotions. The individual corollary, okay, this focuses again in interpreting the events, the differences in interpretation of events. With this corollary, Kelly introduced the notion of individual differences. He pointed out that people differ from one another in how they perceive or interpret an event, and because people construe events differently, they thus form different constructs. So ayun, iba-iba yung pagtingin natin sa mga bagay. So we form different interpretations on how, all right? Because again, people will construe events differently, okay? Because yun nga, unique tayong mga tao. Organization corollary, this focuses on the relationships among the constructs. We organize individual constructs into a pattern according to our view of their interrelationships, their similarities and differences. A construct can include one or more subordinate constructs. So an example here is the construct good may include among its subordinates the constructs of intelligence and moral. So yun. So a construct within a construct. So merong organization that is being formed there. Parang similarities among them in a way. Ayun. The dichotomy corollary is two mutually exclusive alternatives. All constructs are bipolar. Ito po yung term na kailangan nating tandaan when it comes to dichotomy corollary. Bipolar or dichotomous. This is necessary if we are to anticipate future events correctly. Just as we note similarities among people or events, we must also account for the dissimilarities. An example here is it is not enough to have a construct about a friend that describes the personal characteristic of honesty. We must also consider the opposite, dishonesty, to explain how the honest person differs from someone who is not honest. Okay, so yun. The choice corollary refers to the freedom of choice. The notion that people have this freedom of choice is found throughout the Kelly's writings. For every situation, we must choose the alternative that works best for us, the one that allows us to anticipate or predict the outcome of future events. Okay, so an example of here is suppose you must decide which of the two courses to take next semester. So yun, meron tayong decision or choice for that. The range corollary is particularly is referred to the few personal constructs that are appropriate or relevant for all situations. So again, this is the range of convenience. Okay, consider the construct tall versus short, which obviously has a limited range of convenience or applicability. It can be useful with respect to buildings, trees, or basketball players, but it is of no value in describing a pizza or the weather. So, meron lang limitations. Okay, kung hanggang saan mo lang pwede ma-associate yung isang situation. Hindi sa lahat ng bagay. From the word range. The experience corollary, okay, this focuses on the similarity among repeated events. Kelly believed no life event or experience could be reproduced exactly as it occurred the first time. An event can be repeated, but it will not be experienced in precisely the same way. Okay, so an example, each construct is a hypothesis generated on the basis of past, for the basis of past experience to predict or anticipate future events. Each construct is then tested against reality by determining how well it predicted a given event. The modulation corollary focuses on adaptation of new experiences. Constructs differ in their permeability. To permeate means to penetrate or pass through something. Okay, an example here is a bigoted person applies the construct high intelligence versus low intelligence in a fixed or impermeable way to people of a certain ethnic minority group, believing that all members of this group have low intelligence, then new experiences will not penetrate or alter this belief. Okay? The fragmentation corollary is the competition among constructs. Kelly believed that within our construct system, some constructs might be incompatible even though they coexist within the overall pattern. An example here is when a man meets a woman in a psychology class and decides that he is attracted to her. She is also a psychology major and her interests seem similar to his. She fits the friend alternative of the construct friend versus enemy. Okay? The commonality corollary here focuses again to the similarities among people in interpreting events. Because people differ in the ways they construe events, each person develops unique constructs. However, people also show similarities in their ways of construing events. An example here is people from the same culture may show a resemblance in their behavior and characteristics even though they are exposed to different life events. So may pagkakapareha sila. Okay, kahit na nanggaling sila sa ibang lugar o sa ibang kultura. The sociality corollary, okay, refers or focuses on the interpersonal relationships. Okay, we noted above the people in the same culture tend to construe events similarly. So an example here is, alright, think about driving a car. We stake our lives on being able to anticipate what the other drivers on the road will do. We anticipate that they will stop at the red light and move ahead at the green light. It is only when we can predict with some certainty what teachers will do that we can adjust our behaviors to theirs. And while we are adapting to them, they are doing the same to us. Okay? So, yan. So, those are the 11 corollaries. Please try to remember some key terms there, like what is important or what is the main tenet or ano yung pinaka-meaning ng every corollary. Importante po yan. Let's proceed to the techniques used by Kelly. So, he has several techniques that he used for his theory. Number 1 is interview. Okay? Okay, another thing is self-characterization or sketches. Next is the role construct repertory test. Okay, and number 4 is fixed role therapy. All right. So, I will just discuss to you the 4 elements in human disturbance. Okay, so this is one of the notes that I have. So, it has 4: threat, fear, anxiety, and guilt. Alright, so the 4 elements to human disturbance. So, again, with these 4 elements in hand, an abnormal development may happen. So, a disorder is any personal construction which he used repeatedly in spite of consistency. Alright, so just please try to memorize or try to be familiar with all of these corollaries. Ito po yung pinaka-importante sa theory ni Kelly. And also, the 4 elements of human disturbance again: threat, fear, anxiety, and guilt. Okay, so that's all for the theory of Kelly, psychology of personal constructs. I hope you've learned something from this lecture. And thank you very much for listening. And that's all for today, my egos. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you share this to others. And don't forget to subscribe.